Well, welcome to the podcast for the second time. Shannon, how are you doing?
Great. It's great to be here again, Daniel. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to reconnect and chat again. You've been on our podcast before. We'll put that link in the show notes as well, so people can go back and listen to that. But before we get into today's topic, why don't you tell for folks who don't know you, who haven't heard that podcast episode before, tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do to help private practices and therapists.
Well, I'm Shannon Heers. I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Colorado. I'm also licensed in Washington as an LMHC. I am an approved clinical supervisor. I've been doing clinical supervision for about 15 years, and I am the founder of Firelight Supervision. In addition to a group practice that I own and work in the Colorado, Denver metro area. Firelight Supervision in particular is an online clinical supervision and clinical consultation kind of one-stop shop for primarily for private practice therapists, but really for any therapists that might be working within agency, hospital, community mental health settings and don't feel like they're getting the clinical support and consultation or supervision that they feel like they need. So we offer a number of different services through Firelight Supervision. Most of it is virtual because we are throughout all the states and even beyond. If someone wanted to join us from from outside the U.S., we offer group consultation. So consultation is the term I use once you've been fully licensed because you're not usually not required by your state board to get ongoing clinical supervision. But
Right.
as you and a lot
Mhm.
of us know, it is a great idea to
Yep.
continue to get clinical support and consultation. So I use that term for anyone who's fully licensed. So we provide group and individual consultation. We offer a monthly virtual training that we provide a certificate of completion for. We offer drop-in supervision sessions depending on kind of what plan you're using with us. We do parallel working sessions, just kind of any kind of clinical support that would be helpful for you. And primarily, we developed this because a lot of private practice therapists were feeling so isolated in their work, so
Hmm.
alone, especially those that were doing solo practice and virtual solo practice. There was
Yeah.
very little interaction with other professionals. So we have a community of therapists that come together with our consultation groups and our trainings and just kind of support each other and learn.
Yeah.
We have people working in all kinds of different populations, but again, primarily those in private practice.
Yeah. It's great. I love what you do, and I love like the service that you provide. I think I've mentioned that the last time that we chatted. It's just such a vital service that you provide, and I'm looking at the website right now and just looking at the different supervision you provide and consultation. Like you've got like the categories of trauma consultation, risk assessment consultation, older adult consultation. So I can just see it being so helpful, like you said, for folks who are feeling isolated or they just need that extra support. They don't know where to turn. It's so helpful that they can turn to you and to your website and get that support. I love
Yeah,
it.
thank you. We have several supervisors. All of us are very experienced. It's not like this is our first try at providing supervision. So,
Yeah.
you're getting someone who kind of, knows what they're doing and knows how to run supervision and also people who have different specializations and work with different populations because one person just can't do everything, can't be an
Yeah.
expert at everything.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Well, today you wanted to talk about clinical confidence in private practice. So why don't you kind of take us into that? Why is that topic so important?
So over the years, I've supervised a lot of clinicians at various different levels, from master's level interns to provisionally licensed therapists to even advanced level therapists who may be starting a new theoretical orientation or working with a new population. So I've seen a lot of wide variety of clinicians to provide supervision and consultation to. One of the things that keeps coming up is the lack of clinical confidence that therapists have within themselves. And it kind of makes sense because this is very much more of an artistic than technical field, I would say.
Yeah.
And there's so much freedom to connect who you are as a person, yourself, to who you are as a therapist,
Right.
and to align those two things. And that development doesn't happen overnight. It
No.
takes years. I mean, I'm
Hmm.
still developing myself as a therapist,
Right. Hmm.
and I've been in the field for 25 years. Ugh, that's probably aging myself. Um, uh, but that development just doesn't happen right away.
Yeah.
And it makes total sense that we have a lack of clinical confidence, maybe when we're jumping into private practice from agency work, or you're doing private practice right after your graduate degree is ended, or maybe you're trying to learn and integrate a new theoretical orientation or modality, or you're working with a different population you never worked with before. It
Yeah.
totally makes sense that you're not 100% confident in that area.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I was gonna say I love that you've repeated this term a few times. It makes total sense, and that's actually like something I've been finding myself sort of using that phrase for myself for in these growth situations. Like you kind of feel your triggers where you're like, oh, I'm not good enough to do this, or I should be further along, and you kind of like. Oh, it would make sense that I would feel like that and kind of take a step back to realize I'm just starting out or I don't have the 25 years that Shannon has at this, so I'm still learning. So I just wanted that just jumped out to me. I just wanted to pull that out just for anyone listening who's maybe kind of struggling with that sort of that self-talk and confidence piece. So like it would make sense. Like when you think about your world or your past or just where you're at, and it's okay to feel those feelings.
Right. It is okay. And it's completely normal to feel like that.
Hmm.
And you can support yourself a little bit more other than just feeling alone kind of with
Yeah.
that feeling.
Yeah.
You know, if you're feeling like that, there's other people out there who are feeling like that also. So let's get you together.
Yeah.
Let's get people like that together so you can process it, you can talk through it, you can really feel like you have a safe space to be open and authentic and be like, I tried this intervention with this client and it just didn't click and it threw me off for the rest of the session. I couldn't get back into the zone. And
Yeah.
you'll most likely have someone else say, oh yeah, that happened to me once too.
Right.
And just feeling that connection, I mean, it may not change the situation that happened, but you may feel better saying, oh, okay, it's not just me. There are
Right.
other people out there who are also experiencing this.
Yeah, that's huge. Like finding people that you can connect with and have gone through similar experiences that I feel like that often diffuses so much of that internal isolation or just negative self-talk for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, and that can also propel you towards like, okay, well, this is something that I can't, it gives you more hope. Kind
Hmm.
of all those therapeutic concepts that we think about, the installation of
Yeah.
hope and how important that is in therapy and clinical outcomes. Well, that's just as important in you as you developing yourself as a therapist, that
Right.
you have hope that you can get better and that you can learn more and you can be more creative with your interventions and you can have a guide or a template in your head about the path you're going to take with each different client.
Yeah.
And so getting that learning that you can progress through that, that helps build some of your clinical confidence. But
Hmm.
sometimes if you don't have other people to bounce the ideas off of or connect with in that way, you could go the other way. Well, gosh, I'm just a terrible therapist. This is not for me. This is not working. I can't do this, and we definitely don't want that because most
Yeah.
likely if you've gotten to this point, you are a really good therapist.
Yeah.
But you can
Hmm.
also be way better.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So it's just kind of finding those people that you could connect with and consult with, and just keep moving through it, keep moving forward. Sounds like.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I'll also you kind of like touched on this a little bit, but haven't really gotten there. I want to talk a little bit about like imposter syndrome. Like as you're in that place of maybe you are finding those, getting that consultation or finding those groups that you can bounce those ideas off of, there's still the day to day where maybe you are still struggling for like, who am I to be providing this intervention? Who am I to sit with this type of client? How do we walk through that, like when it comes down to like the day to day? You're going into work, you've got some of these clients coming up, and you feel like, I don't think I'm the one to do it.
Right, because imposter syndrome is really prevalent, I'll say,
Mm,
especially in private practice therapists. I see it really often when you're first starting private practice. Again, whether you have prior experience as a therapist, but private practice is a whole different thing. Like you're now a
yeah,
business owner in addition to a therapist.
yeah,
And there are so many things that maybe you've never ever done before. And so that imposter syndrome can creep in more and more. Um, versus maybe when you were in a more stable job or you had a job you felt more comfortable doing.
yeah.
So, and I'll say, even I experienced imposter syndrome. I remember sitting in a therapy session, it was sometime in the last couple of years with a client being like, oh my gosh, she should really talk to someone about this. And I was like, oh, wait, that's me.
She would have
Get
talked
it
to
together.
me.
Right, get it
Yeah.
together. So, definitely imposter syndrome kind of flares up when you feel, again, less confident in what you're doing. And so, is it meaning that you don't know what direction you're going to take this client in. You don't know the specific interventions you're going to use in the here and now. Is it that you don't have a framework? Is it that you've never worked with a client with this presenting concern before? Kind of trying to narrow down where that imposter syndrome is really coming from. Maybe you're having a bad day. Maybe you're sick and you didn't get enough
Mhm.
sleep the night before, but really kind of trying to figure out where that imposter syndrome comes from. I don't know if it's realistic for us to say you're going to get to the point where you're never going to have imposter syndrome again.
Right.
So it's more along the lines of when it does come up, take a step back, analyze it, okay, what's going on? Do a quick, full body scan or check in with yourself. Why
Hmm.
am I feeling like this right now? If you don't have time right then in the session, you can certainly compartmentalize it and come back to it a
Right.
little bit later, but you do want to reflect on that experience. You want to reflect, what were the triggers? Why did this come up right now? What else
Yeah.
was going on in my life? Was it just this client or was there other things going on? And then you can say, well, okay, so based on kind of that assessment, what's the treatment plan for that? How can
Hmm.
I how can I work through some of this imposter syndrome?
Yeah.
I do think imposter syndrome comes up a lot when people don't have a particular or several theoretical framework orientations that they're working from. So, for instance, if I am working with someone who wants to change a habit or change an addictive behavior, I usually go to motivational interviewing because that is my framework that
Hmm.
I like to use for how people change. But if I don't have a framework for like that I go to for how people change, I'm going to feel flustered. I'm going to feel lost.
Right.
I'm going to have low confidence that I can really help this person. So I'm not saying you have to have like one specific framework that you work from. I would say most therapists tend to be fairly eclectic and they pull from different, frameworks and interventions,
Yeah.
but you do want to know what you're pulling from and why.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like clinical consultation and supervision can really help support you as you're
Mm.
reviewing your cases with your supervisor, with your group. One of the questions I almost always ask is, what framework are you using? And what would that framework say that you do in this case?
Yeah. That's really good because it comes down to kind of like knowing the tools, knowing like what's in your toolbox to use at the correct time. And I love how you kind of also wove into like what consultation, supervision is so important because you might use the tool in the wrong way, or you could use it in a better way. And so when you get that feedback, um, to say like, yeah, I tried doing this, but a supervisor can say, well, what about this? You can kind of see it from a different perspective, and it helps you really like learn to use those tools. I'm kind of using the tool metaphor because I'm not a therapist myself, so it's just kind of like processing it and putting it in a simple term for my brain to understand. But it's like practicing using the tools. And, if you don't have someone who's more experienced showing you like how to use the tools, you might still use the tools just fine, but you can use them much better from someone who's really like teaching you, who's really gone down that road.
hmm Yeah, and I definitely like the tool framework. I use that a lot with my clients, like developing a toolkit, all of that. And it really is the same with supervision. A lot of us invest in kind of specialized trainings, and some of them can be really
Right.
expensive. I'm
Hmm.
thinking like EMDR or IFS or EFT or, some sort of modality that takes multiple days of training to learn. And then what do we do once we've learned all of that? We have the theoretical framework, and maybe some, during the trainings, you do some experiential stuff, but that's only for a couple of days, usually,
Yeah.
maybe up to a week. And then you have years, to kind of implement that training into your practice. So, kind of the practical
Yeah.
applications of what
Hmm.
you're learning. And that's also where I feel like consultation can be incredibly helpful because if you're working with someone who really has been doing the practical application of that theory for a much longer time than you are, it helps you, I don't want to say think less, but it's a little bit easier than doing it all yourself. Because a lot of us as
Right.
therapists, we like to do it all ourselves. No, we can do it myself. I can do it myself. We are so
Yeah.
reluctant to seek out that support, which is so interesting because that's literally what we tell our clients to do every day.
Interesting. There's something there. There's something we need to dig into. Well, are there any other things that you want to, as we kind of like wrap up our conversation about um just cultivating this clinical confidence, are there any other things that you want to share just that will help folks to continue to build that confidence?
I think, like I said, developing a framework or several that you like to pull from and knowing what you're doing and why you're doing it is really going to help build the confidence. Of course,
Hmm.
experience does help, but just experience is not quite enough because you can keep doing the same thing over and over and
Right.
over again, and maybe it's not working, or maybe it's not the best way to approach something. And if you don't have any kind of regular feedback or
Right.
assessment or evaluation of what you're doing, you could be years down the line and doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So I do think that, getting feedback, having a good theoretical framework, and then I think there's also something that I've kind of alluded to already, but it's getting, I call it clinical support, and that's a little bit different than consultation. So clinical support is not necessarily therapy. I always encourage therapists to do their own work, of course. But clinical support is a little bit different. It's maybe the challenges of the day to day in and
Hmm.
out, like being a private practice owner and providing therapy to your clients. Like, oh my gosh, today was a really rough day with my clients. I can handle it, but it was just a tough day. Maybe
Right.
just having someone around to like remind you of, hey, remember to do your exercises, take care of yourself, or whatever your transition is between work and home. Remember to do that. So I think finding your people, finding those
Hmm.
people that will be your clinical support, whoever that is. Maybe it's your friends, maybe it's your family or partner. Maybe it's other private practice therapists, maybe it's your supervisor, whoever those people are that are going to provide you some of that clinical support, I think is so important. I mean, I get a ridiculous amount of consultation, Daniel, just to kind of maintain myself every
Yeah.
single day. I do a lot of different things in a lot of different areas. Um,
That's
and I
great.
just hope that people know that you don't have to do this alone. And in fact, you can be really happy doing this work and you can have a really long career doing this work, but you may not be able to do it alone.
Yeah, absolutely. This has all been just really inspiring for me. I'm kind of thinking coming away from this, I'm like, I need to find more people. I need to find more
Find your
people
people.
outside of my world to consult with. I think for any business owner, we've heard about mastermind groups and having like business coaches and stuff like that. And I've had seasons where I've done those things. And at this time, I'm kind of pondering, okay, what do I do next? And
Mhm.
this is a good conversation just to remind me, even as a non-therapist, like we need people in our lives to bounce ideas off of, to encourage us, to tell us the truth when we're maybe telling ourselves stories that are not necessarily true that don't serve us. So we need those people. So this is just a great reminder. So appreciate it, Shannon. Thank you.
Right. Right. Well, excellent. I'm excited.
Me too. Well, I'm looking at your website and I see that you've got a free download for a clinical confidence ebook. So I just want to do a plug for that. Like, why don't you tell us what that is about and where people can get that?
Oh my gosh, this is a very extensive ebook, I will say. It is not short. Um,
Great.
it is a collection of blogs that our clinical supervisors have written over the years that are geared to provide people with more confidence. There are some that are specific in different clinical specializations. There are some that are a little bit more generalized. But it's a fantastic resource, I would say. And I hope it looks pretty too. I really like visually how it looks. We spent a
Awesome.
lot of time putting it together. So yes,
Yeah.
it's on the homepage of our website, firelightsupervision.com. All you need to do is click on it, sign up for it, and we'll send it to you in your in your inbox.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we'll put that on the show notes too, so people can get that. And yeah, so everybody go check that out. And Shannon's got some great resources, so definitely check out her website. So thanks again, Shannon, for spending some time with us and teaching us a little bit more about growing that confidence.
Thanks so much, Daniel. Pleasure to be here as always.